Hello, and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily show on Facebook, where we show you one cool thing that we are showing off in the PC Mag labs. I'm Sasha Segan. This is Jim Fisher. We have Social Pete on the con taking your questions and comments. And today we are talking about one of the longest awaited products which we have shown on One Cool Thing, I think in the history of this show, because some people have been waiting for this for 4 years? 5 years?
It's been 5 years since this camera was last updated. So okay. I don't think they were waiting for it as soon as the last one came out. But maybe 2 or 3 years they get the itch. You know, they want to get something new. They want to get something exciting. What can I upgrade? And here it is, the Canon 6D Mark II. Okay, so the Canon 6D Mark II, this is, now, would you consider this an entry-level SLR, a mainstream SLR? This is Canon's entry-level full-frame SLR. Okay. So someone who just wants to buy their first camera, probably not going to buy this. Someone who has had a crop sensor camera and is really into photography and wants to get a full-frame model, but doesn't want to spend $3,000, $4,000 on it, this is here for $2,000 as a body only. Now, when you talk about full frame, how much bigger is this sensor than in your $1,000 crop sensor cameras? Your typical crop sensor is 16 by 24 millimeters. This is 24 by 36, the same as a frame of 35 millimeter film, which we used to remember using. So surface area, it is like close. It's more than twice the surface area. Typically, when you're talking about lenses, there's a focal length multiplier of 1.5 or 1.6 that you apply when you put this lens on a crop body. So this is a 24 millimeter lens on this wide angle. You would say it's more like a 35, 36, 40 millimeter lens on a crop body. Okay, so now how many megapixels is this? Do megapixels even matter that much at this level? Not really. I mean, you have models as low as 20, as high as 50. This is 26. So the original 60 was a 20.9 megapixel sensor. This is a 26 megapixel sensor. So a modest bump in resolution. Okay, so let's talk about, so 5 years, you imagine there must be a lot of technology improvements. What are the improvements from the 6D to here? Okay, the 6D had some forward-thinking technology in it. It was one of the first SLRs to have Wi-Fi, and it also had GPS. This has both. Okay. Big addition here is the LCD. It's one of the tilting touchscreen varieties, and it uses something that Canon has called dual pixel AF, which is a way to focus using phase detection with a sensor, on-sensor phase detection and SLR, which means when you're recording, say, video, try and get this set up where we can actually see the difference in the shot. Let's just see if I can tap. All right, so when you see the video here on the screen, I tap on our videographer, he's in focus, I tap here. On a traditional SLR with contrast detection, that's going to be like a little slow, little juddery because it has to go past the point of focus and back. This with phase detection just makes a smooth, slow rack. And Canon's been putting this in its crop sensor SLRs and some of its full frame models. The 1DX Mark II, which is its flagship sports camera, and the 5D Mark IV, which is its all-around full frame pro camera. Both have this, so now this one has it as well. Okay, so the autofocus, that is a major step forward. I think in live view. The autofocus through the Viewfinder is also a big upgrade. The 60 had like a 9-point autofocus system that was kind of spread out. This is spread out in a small area of the frame. This has got a similar coverage as far as the area goes, but it's got 45 points in there, which means you've got more sensitivity to tracking, more ability to track moving subjects, and it can shoot at 6.5 frames a second. So 6.5 frames a second, that's faster bursts than the the original 60 was 5 frames a second. So it's an upgrade. It's a little bit of an upgrade. Yeah. Okay, so now how about the image quality? 5 years, has the sensor improved dramatically? Not as much as we thought it would. The 5D Mark IV has been Canon, a really big home run for Canon. Its 30 megapixel sensor is really great. It has the dual pixel AF. It has great high ISO performance. It has excellent dynamic range. This has more resolution than the 6D, but the high ISO and the low ISO dynamic range, which is how much you can information get in the shadows and in the bright highlights all at the same time when shooting RAW, is just on the same level as the 6D, which is 5 years old now. And other cameras in this price range have surpassed that in the meantime.
And when you talk about other cameras in this price range, are you talking primarily about Nikon?
Specifically the Nikon D750, which sells for the exact same price. It's 3 years old now. It's a 24 megapixel SLR, but we saw both better high ISO performance in our tests and better dynamic range in that camera than in this one. Also in the mirrorless world, the Sony Alpha 7 II, the A7 II, sells for about $1,600, $1,700, a couple $100 less than this. Also 24 megapixel sensor, also betters it in those two areas.
Now, would you want to use this for video? How are the video features here?
The video features are a little underwhelming. The autofocus is great. It's if you're someone who wants to have smooth autofocus and not have to worry about manually focusing, really good, strong quality there. The actual video quality, the footage is a little soft. It's 1080p. It's just not on the same level as some of the other cameras we've seen from Canon, even in the crop realm, like the 80D, which has a lot of shared DNA with this camera as far as autofocus system goes, touch screen goes, video record, raw shooting, etc. That does better video quality than this.
How important do you think the ability to shoot in 4K is to most people nowadays in real life? Is that a box-checking feature, or is it something that people are really using in the day-to-day?
It depends on your use case. For someone who's serious about video and wants the best quality they can get, 4K is a big plus because it gives you much sharper images. It gives you the ability to pull frames out and actually have something printable. It gives you the ability to crop in pretty excessively and do 1080p cropping, because you've got 8 megapixels per frame for 4K versus 2 for 1080p. This obviously does not do 4K. I'm trying to think, in this price range, you don't have a lot of full frame options that do 4K. You're looking at $3,000 and up for a full frame 4K camera.
Looks like we have some questions out there.
Did you mention if there's Wi-Fi?
There is. It's got built-in Wi-Fi with Bluetooth and NFC. Bluetooth will keep the connection alive so you can more easily pair your iOS devices. NFC for Android.
So now, we've got this, and then we've got the $3,500 step up.
Yes.
And what do you get? What do you get by stepping up? Because as you were saying earlier, that's the one, you really recommend that one more enthusiastically.
The 5D Mark IV is our editor's choice in its price range.
Okay.
The Nikon D750 is our editor's choice in this price range. As far as if you're a Canon shooter, the Nikon camera does not do much good for you. You don't want to change out all your lenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The 5D Mark IV gets you faster burst shooting. It's a stronger, sturdier build quality. More robust, better image sensor, a little more resolution, which is great, but it has really fantastic high ISO and this crazy ability to push files like you get from, say, a Sony sensor, even though Canon makes its own sensors, which kind of puts it apart from Nikon, where they're using sensors from other manufacturers.
So I think that one of the biggest questions about this camera is going to be from existing 6D owners saying, okay, I've had my 6D for a couple of years, should I upgrade?
Are you happy with the 6D? Is it working? If the answer is yes and yes, I don't see the point in upgrading. If you're happy with the 6D image quality and it's not working and you've got a decent, or it's working spottily after this time, and you want a replacement, this is kind of a lateral move. You're not getting, you're getting a little more resolution, you're getting the better autofocus. You're not going to get a palpable upgrade in image quality at high ISO or that dynamic range at the low end. And I know people, including myself, have mentioned the dynamic range, and we're talking about it a lot. It's not as big a deal as some people are making out to be, and I don't want to make it sound like it's an albatross hanging over this camera. It's in certain situations where you've got extremely mixed lighting, and you want to take that raw file and push those shadows up so you don't blow your highlights out, you're going to see some more noise in this than you will in comparable cameras. How sensitive you are to that, it really depends on the type of photography you're doing.
Looks like we have another question.
How much do you think you could get the original EOS 60 for?
60 is selling for new for about $1,400 right now. If you buy it used, you might be looking at less than $1,000.
Now, for people who are considering their first first SLR and really their first SLR system, and they have to make a decision between, do I go with the Canon ecosystem, the Nikon ecosystem, or one of the other ecosystems?
Right. You have to, if you're not, don't have an SLR or we'll say interchangeable lens camera at this point, you've got to look at certain things. Number one, do I want an SLR? Would you be better off with a mirrorless camera, which have a lot of the same features and benefits of an SLR? So typically smaller, typically, I won't say less expensive because they're inexpensive. The prices scale up the same way in both ranges. But you're dealing with electronic viewfinders instead of optical ones. Electronic viewfinders have their benefits. You're seeing the frame that you're getting through the viewfinder with the appropriate depth of field and color balance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of choices out there. I would ask, what do you want to shoot? Are you looking for best landscape, low light quality? Are you trying to shoot fast-moving action? Are you happy with the crop sensor? Do you really want to get a full-frame model? We typically recommend full-frame models to people who have a background in photography, even if they're someone who is still clinging on to, used to shoot medium format film or 35mm film and now is slow to digital, or buying a new digital camera after so many years of having an old one.
I guess one of the things I'm wondering is if this is a beginner to interchangeable lens cameras who is thinking about, I want to enter an ecosystem, start, getting some lenses, getting some cameras, possibly stepping up over time. Does the presence of this model in Canon's line say, oh well, that's a broken step on the staircase? I'm not necessarily going to step up past this.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, one of the things with Canon, if you're invested in their crop sensor line and you invest in crop sensor lenses from Canon, you can't take them with you.
Oh, okay.
They physically won't mount.
Starting over.
Right. If you use third-party lenses, say a Sigma lens that's a crop sensor, you could put it on this camera, you just get the black vignette around there. That's in contrast to Nikon. Nikon has the same lens mount for all of its lenses, and if you buy a full-frame Nikon, and you still have old crop sensor lenses, you can use them just as you would on your crop sensor camera with a reduced sensor resolution. It basically just does the crop in camera. My favorites for people who are looking at a system they can grow with, Canon and Nikon are both very solid options on the SLR front. In the mirrorless world, I really recommend Fujifilm. It's crop sensor only, but they have a really incredible flagship model now with great autofocus, 4K video, weather sealed, compact, a really wide lens selection, and Sony, which has a full frame mirrorless line as well as a crop sensor line, so you can really do that eventual move up to full frame you want to, and you can get the Sony full frame system for less than Canon or Nikon.
Okay. Any other questions out there? Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot, Jim. Our review of the Canon 60 Mark II is up on...
Actually, we did get one last one. What is the best super wide lens that you'd recommend?
Best super wide lens. Okay, if you've got Canon, the Canon has this 11-24 full frame lens f4 that's wider than anything else and is really fantastic but super expensive. If you don't want to spend that much and you're happy with just 12 millimeters on the full frame, the Sigma 12-24 f4 Art is also really great and less money. It's still pricey, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's less than the Canon. If you're dealing with a crop sensor lens, you don't have as many choices for ultra wide. Canon system, the Canon 10-18 is like $200 or $300. It's a pretty solid lens for the price. It's not earth-shatteringly great, but you get what you pay for, and it's better than what you pay for.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you, Jim. Our review of the 60 Mark II is up on PCMag.com. It is 3.5 stars. It's a pretty good camera. It's not the best camera in its class, but it's not a bad camera. Thank you all for watching. We will be back actually at 3 p.m. today with Dialed In, our special show about mobile phones, and then back at 10 a.m. tomorrow with another episode of One Cool Thing.